The polar vortex looks to be returning to the US mid to late month. First of all, we're going to look at the disruption of the polar vortex on the 10 millibar height anomalies from the latest European. And when this polar vortex is strong, it is concentric around the Arctic with little to disrupt it, and little polar air shifts southward. But as we move to mid to late month, you can start to see the polar vortex start to stretch and almost separate into two halves here, one into Siberia and one into North America. This will cause cold air to spill southward and even an elongation later in the month toward the United States. What's causing this polar vortex disruption is what we call a sudden stratospheric warming event, which warm air in the stratosphere breaks down the polar vortex and weakens it and allows it to slide south into North America. Our latest GFS also agrees, showing a stronger, more concentric polar vortex now, but separating by mid-month and almost showing a complete split of the polar vortex by mid to late month, and then an elongation toward the US. Teleconnections are also a very important tool to use to diagnose the probability of cold air entering the United States. Our Arctic oscillation is set to turn negative by mid to late month, and this means that colder air is likely to spill southward with a weakening of our polar vortex. And it is no surprise that we're in a positive Arctic oscillation now with the more zonal pattern we're in. The North Atlantic oscillation is also set to go negative toward mid-month, which promotes colder and snowier conditions with troughing over the eastern United States. These are two very important indices for cold air. Our PNA is also set to go more toward neutral by mid-month, which will decrease the amount of troughing in the west. Another important indice we look at is the Madden-Julian oscillation and the phases it goes through. Our latest European model shows it starting out in phases 5 to 6, but transitioning towards 7 and 8 as we head toward the mid to later part of the month. As the MJO moves into phases 7 and 8, colder air is more likely in the central and eastern United States. This is just another indice that proves the point that Arctic air is possible toward the end of the month, if not likely. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you want more explanation videos on the teleconnections we discussed, such as the AO, the NAO, the PNA, the MJO, and even more. Make sure to stay tuned. This pattern is just getting started and it could get very crazy the rest of the month with this polar vortex looking more likely.